Hey, college and career success. This is your week 3. So we're already in week 3 of our summer semester. And so I wanted to spend some time and go over what you're going to be doing this week. It's opening on Monday, June 15th. So as always, when I get into our course page, I would click on lessons. And some of this you won't be able to see anymore because it'll be kind of timed out, but you'll see week 3, which covers chapter 2 of our textbook. So this is really focused on like setting goals and talking about making sure that those goals are set strategically, as well as your career path and career exploration. And so you'll see there are several assignments this week. There are a little bit more. The past couple weeks there's been 4 assignments. This week there are 5 assignments. And so I just want to make you aware of that right away so you can kind of budget your time throughout this week. And you want to make sure that every week you're completing all of those assignments, because I have had students just completing like 1 or 2 and then forgetting to do the rest, or maybe choosing not to. I'm not sure. All right. So first thing I want to do before we get into all the assignments is I'm going to get into the materials area, and I'm going to pull up the slides for the chapter so I can kind of go through what I would normally do as a lecture. So chapter 2, there is a research study. If you are interested in that, you can certainly go through and look at the research. And if we were meeting face-to-face as originally planned, I would take a little bit of time to go through that, but we're not going to do that right now. So chapter 2 in your textbook starts on page 47. Now, I do not scan these pages for copyright issues. I can scan the first chapter, but after that, I would be violating copyright. So unfortunately, if you don't have your textbook yet, you will need to get that soon for the rest of the chapters. Okay, so in our chapter, it starts talking about setting goals. And of course, you want to be able to set goals, but why do we set goals? Well, we set goals because it increases our motivation. If we have goals to work toward, we feel like we have something to do. It helps us kind of move along so that we have a goal, we have a finish line at the end. And we want to make sure that we are setting short-term and long-term goals. Sometimes you might hear them as like short, mid-term, and long-term goals. It also helps with our emotions and overall well-being. And there's a study that you'll see if you look into it here in our chapters that it talks about even if you fall short of your goal, you still actually are doing something for your overall health. So it does give us some strategies, and one of the strategies they use in our chapter is the ABCs of goal setting. And so A meaning aim high, set goals that are high, because if you set goals that are well below your ability, you're not really doing yourself any favors. Believe in yourself. You have to have that self-confidence and self-efficacy to be able to put the needed effort into it. Care and commit. If you say, okay, I want a 4.0 GPA, for instance, that's a pretty high goal. You have to commit to that. You have to care about it. You can't just set the goal and be like, we'll see what happens. You have to put the work and effort. So a goal has to have the meat behind it, so to speak. You have to put effort into it. You can't just set goals and then never think about it again. And then specify and self-reflect. So saying I want good grades this semester, that's a great goal in terms of idea, but it's not a very specific goal. You need to narrow down that goal. What does good mean? Because A is good to one person, but a B is good to another. So to be more specific. So it does talk about the ABCs. Here is that study that I alluded to a couple minutes ago. Is there a downside to setting and challenging goals? So this is a longitudinal study from 1979 until 1992. So it's a pretty long study. And they started out with a little over 12,500 participants. They ended with 9,000 participants approximately. And this was all having to do with their degrees. They were set goals as it based on degree, what kind of degrees they wanted to earn. Well, of the 9,000 that stuck with it, 4,800 or so actually earned the degree they went for. So the results kind of went and said, 43% of the people fell short of their goal. 49% achieved their actual goal, and 8% exceeded the goal. But what was interesting about the ones that did not meet their goal, they didn't really have any long-term negative effects. Of course, you're going to be bummed. You didn't get your associate degree, or you couldn't finish your bachelor's. There's going to be that disappointment with it, but there wasn't like a long-term like depression, mental health issue. In fact, even the people who didn't meet their goal had lower levels of depression, because working towards something helped their overall mental, academic, social, all of those well-being. So there's really not a downside of setting high goals and working toward them because it helps you overall. So again, one part of the ABCs is that believing in yourself, self-efficacy. Part of self-efficacy is taking risks and doing things maybe out of your comfort zone so you can grow as a person in different ways. And then again, the C part of ABCs is to commit. Spend the time, spend the effort, spend the energy toward your goals and self-reflect. So there's in goal setting, you set a goal, let's use a semester as an example. Set a goal at the beginning of the semester. You shouldn't reevaluate it at the very end. You should constantly be thinking about it. After week 1, how's it going? How am I on track? Do I need to adjust anything? If these strategies are not working, what do I need to do to make sure they are working? So your chapter 2 will talk more about goal setting and making sure that you're doing it in a way that is smart for you. Okay, the next part of the chapter talks about career exploration, which some of you, you might already know the field you're going into. Some of you might be undecided. Some of you are still in high school, so you're not quite there yet. No matter where you are, these are probably things you've thought about or need to think about along your path, whether you are staying at Stark State or you're transferring out or whatever the case might be. So they do talk about different ways that you can come to the conclusion of what career you want to go into. I'm going to kind of focus on this one right here. Who influences career decisions? So there's a study that talks about, how do we get to where we are with the decisions we make and as it regards to our career. And so the biggest percent was our parents. If you think about it, think about a lot of fields, particularly like the nursing field, education, military. A lot of people I know and a lot of people will share stories that they got into those fields because a parent happened to be in that field. So oftentimes our parents will make those kind of influences on us, but also our friends. Our friends can make a big influence on what career path we go into. And so there are different ways that we can be influenced in our career. And there are different career theories that influence why we go into our areas. So there are 3 main theories. Social cognitive says that other people encourage us, which is what this was kind of talking about. Other people encourage us. They give us insight. They allow us to see what the career could look like. Or in another way, we see someone in a field, we're like, oh, I don't want to do that. And then our cognitive part of it is our own thinking, our beliefs in ourselves, what we think we can do. That's the first theory, social cognitive. The second theory is happenstance. And that basically just means that sometimes we plan and sometimes we don't plan. So maybe we have an idea and we go into that field or we shadow someone or whatever the case might be. And then we see something else. We're like, oh, wait, that looks more interesting. So happenstance kind of just means some of the planning we did, some of it just kind of is anticipated. I always tell the story in class of my student who was she wanted to be a nurse. Well, unfortunately, she was pulled over for driving while under the influence, and she had a DUI under her belt, which means she couldn't get into her medical field. So she was bummed about that, and so she kind of had to think about how she was going to redirect her life, and in the meantime, she got a job, I think it was at Olive Garden, as like a line chef. And she decided she really liked cooking. And so she came back and she went to the culinary program, and she found out that that's really what like her passion was. And so she had kind of a plan happened and it kind of took her in a different direction. So that's a little bit of like the happenstance. And then our like personalities. So the other one is talking about like our person environment fit. Who we are and what we like has an impact on the kind of things that we're going to do. And there are so many different theories and tests and assessments you can take on this. One of the most commonly known ones is Holland's, and they go over, what kind of person are you and about you, and a lot of times, what will that look like as it relates to a career. So those are the 3 main career theories, and hopefully maybe you can see yourself in one of them or maybe even overlap. All right, there's also something called career indecision, which means you're just not sure. And oftentimes, like on average, students do change their major between 3 to 5 times before they really settle on what they're doing. That's really common, and there's lots of reasons for that. Maybe they go to college before they're ready. Maybe they just don't have the kind of information they need, or it's inconsistent. So lots of times we can get to career indecision for many different reasons. All right. Part of career exploration, again, is that self-assessment piece, which I kind of touched on right here, the Hollins, like knowing your personality, knowing your environment and your fit. But self-assessment, kind of thinking about, okay, what kind of person am I? What kind of values do I have? What do I want to, where do I see myself? How do I want to, be secure in my job or my hours or my salary? So knowing what your values are really important in making sure that you are finding a job that fits. On pages like 62 and 63, there's a list of all these values that you might hold, and just kind of comparing that list to see, what kind of hours do I want? What kind of schedule? What kind of coworkers? And making sure that you find a fit that works for you, because career unhappiness often happens when our values do not match what career we're in, and that leads to a lot of turnover and disappointment with our career. So another thing, you might have heard of like Gardner's multiple intelligences. So they talk about that a little bit more on page 63 of your textbook, and how, again, this kind of relates back up here. What kind of person you are. Are you investigative? Are you enterprising? Are you musical? Are you naturalistic? And then looking to see how does that fit with the career you've chosen. Also, soft skills are important. They did this like survey of employers. What are some skills that you value that are soft skills? Like your technical skills are going to get you hired. Your ability to do the job. Your soft skills are what's going to keep you in your job, as well as maybe promote you through the ranks, so to speak. And soft skills are things like this, not all of them, but some examples: courtesy, responsibility, time management, communication, so looking for ways to make sure that those skills are also sharpened for you, not just your technical skills. Here's another one of those like assessments. They talk about Ocean, some personality, over on page 65. And again, something else to take in consideration. All right, and then the last couple slides here talk about learning about your career. So it's going to give you a website. This is a great website, Occupational Outlook Handbook. So I'm just going to visit that real quick. Okay, so I would pull that up. And let's say like I'm just going to kind of make it quick. So I'm going to search up here, and I'm going to say physical therapy. Okay. Here I'm going to click on my result that matches it. And this is really nice. Quick summary. And then each tab goes into a little bit more in depth. What they do, where they work, the education, how much you can expect to be paid, how the job outlook is going up until about 10-year projection here. Similar occupation. So there's lots of information there. If you don't know much about your career, this is a great place to go. And I'm going to show you another place here in just a little bit. That's a great place to look. And then also other ways is like maybe performing an informational interview with someone who's already in the field, maybe shadowing them for a day. What is it really like to spend a day in that field? So that's what chapter 2 is. And I encourage you to, read the chapter on your own, look through the PowerPoint slides so that you're familiar with that. Okay, now for your assignments this week, back in here. So I'm going to go into the assignments. Here's your chapter 2 discussion. So again, when you're ready, you read the prompt, which is in red. You click on that link, create thread. That's how you post your original response. And remember, you are also responding to 2 other classmates. Some of you are posting your original response and then you're not going back and responding. So that kind of takes like what the classroom would look like if we were communicating together. That's what the discussion forum, the purpose is so you can still interact even though we're not face-to-face. Okay, so chapter 2 discussion. Summarize your interests, values, personality, and abilities as they relate to careers. So that's referring to kind of some of these things that we just talked about. Are you pretty open? Do you have linguistic? And if you don't have like these exact labels, you can just kind of talk about yourself. What are your general skills, your general abilities, your general values? And how do those connect to the career that you're going into? And how can you find out more about your career? I mean, I just gave you like a website, at the very least, talked about informational interviews, shortly I'm going to talk to you about career services. So how could you find out more about your careers and how could you develop your values and abilities? So remember, 250 words. Again, some of you are posting, you're not responding to classmates, but you're also not posting 250 words or more. You're posting maybe a couple sentences. So again, this would normally take the place, like in class, this would be a journal assignment, which you would type and turn in our online version. It's a discussion. So that's your discussion for chapter 2. You are creating your original response by Wednesday, June 17th for week 3 attendance. Okay, here's your next assignment, the 10 and 25 year now. This kind of goes along with goal setting, so it's going to make you visualize. Here it is. Here's the document. So it's going to make you think about accomplishments in different avenues of your life: educational, relationships, financial, living, and then anything else you can think of. Where would you like to be 10 years from now in terms of your education? You're going to have your associate done, maybe your bachelor's, maybe you're going to get a certificate, whatever. 10 years from now, 25 years from now. And you're doing that for all of these categories. And then if you have another category you want to add, it says, envision that you run into a teacher, whether it's a high school teacher or college teacher. What would your 10 years from now you look like? And then what would your 25 years from now look like? And it says use complete sentences. So it's kind of a way to help you visualize your goals in just kind of a different context. So when you're done with that, you'll go in, save it in that Word document, browse your computer, submit it so it attaches. That's your next assignment, the 10 and 25 year now. 25 year from now, there we go. Next one, Chapter 2 quiz. Several of you did not turn in your Chapter 1 quiz, so please make sure you're turning these quizzes in. This one has 10 questions. The Chapter 1 only had 7, I recall correctly. So again, you're answering these in 2 to 5 complete sentences. So they're going to talk about all the concepts from Chapter 2. So quite a few of which I've already discussed in the slides, a couple of which you may have to go back into your textbook and kind of look at. So a lot of these will set up like a little bit of a scenario. Lori has the long-term goal of becoming a nurse. Identify several sub-goals she could help to create her achieve her goal. How would she monitor her progress? Just make sure you read the questions thoroughly and you're answering all parts. So again, kind of look through. And on these kind of questions, describe the big 5 personality factors. They're talking about that oceans I mentioned briefly on a few of the slides, talking about your values and personality. By that, I don't mean like just list them, just in general. Why is it important to know your personality? Why is it important to know where you fit with that? What are transferable skills? Compare, contrast. So again, there's 10 questions. I touched on some of these in the PowerPoint already. Some of them you may have to get into the textbook and get a little bit more in detail so you can answer those questions. So when you're done, you'll type in there, save the document, submit it. That's Chapter 2 quiz. All right. College resource reflection. So last week you had the digital library. This week you have the career services. So these are actually going to kind of work together, but you're going to go to the career services website. Sorry, it always says, you sure you want to leave? So here's career services. So I would advise you to kind of just click around, and you're going to get a chance to find out more about them here in the next assignment, but click around. They have a lot of resources. They have interview practice. So if you have interviews coming up, they have something called Interview Stream that can help you practice for an interview. They have some resume tips. If you're looking to brush up or look at different kinds of resumes, then they have a lot of different resources, and you're actually going to get into one of them for our next assignment. So again, for career services, for our college resource reflection, please click around in here, see what they have to offer. When you are ready to type your reflection, it's just a paragraph, and it's not a summary. I'm very familiar with career services. I've worked and partnered with them for 10 years now. I don't need to know career services can do this and this and this. How would you specifically use them? Maybe you're at the very beginning of your career, so maybe you would use them to help you explore career possibilities. Maybe you're ready to graduate, so maybe they could help you do a career search. Maybe you want to transfer, so they could help connect you to another office at the college that you're transferring to. Whatever the case is, how could you use them? How could they be helpful to you? That's your career services reflection. And so for that, you can certainly type it in a Word document and upload it, or you can go in and just hit write submission and you can type it right in there. Okay, the last assignment. This is 30 points. Every single college and career success student and student success student has to do this particular assignment. So this is why these can kind of go together. So you may want to wait to do your reflection until you do this assignment. It's up to you. So there are 2 parts to this assignment. So you'll click in. There are 2 parts, and it tells you right there, it breaks it down for you. The first one is to go to Career Coach. That's why I said you're going to use one of the resources. So you're going to go to Career Coach, and you're going to take an assessment. Take the career assessment. You're going to click on that. You are going to take the 60 question before you panic. It's really quick. This is what the questions look like. Would you like to do this? And you just go through and hit, I agree, I disagree, whatever the case is. Eventually, you are going to get your result. So I already took it. So here's my result. It's going to tell me what my traits are. And then down here, it's going to give me all my potential matches for a career. Now, I just went through and I kind of took it willy-nilly. I don't want you to do that. I want you to really think about your answers. But what you can do when you get your career results is click in and see, okay, well, first of all, is the major I want to go into on here? Or do I have to maybe think about it, look and see what did match me well? And you can click on the one that matched you, or you can find your career choice. Again, it's going to take you a couple layers to get there. And then finally, it'll take you to this page where it's going to tell you more about the career. Overview. What does that career look like? What kind of tasks will you have to do? How much can you get paid? Where could you work? Like right now, where are people hiring? Excuse me, I had to sneeze. I apologize. So that's it's a really neat tool because it tells you a lot about what's going on in your field. Now, for my purposes, you are going to, let me get back to the original results here. Okay. You're going to go download full results. Download full results, and it's going to bring up a PDF like this. You will, up here in the right-hand corner, hit download, and go ahead and save it. That's the first thing you will upload. So when you're in here, see at the bottom, there's a Dropbox. You'll submit that. Browse your computer and submit it. That's part 1, is taking the career services 60-question assessment. The second part is watching this video here. This video will kind of walk you through a little bit more of those results, as well as the career services office in general. Now, I know it's about 20 minutes long. How you'll get the rest of your points is when you finish your video and you've watched it all the way to the end with sound on, I'll get a ticket basically that says, hey, so-and-so has watched this video. And that's how you get your other points. So that's the second part of the assignment. The first part is completing this assessment. The second part, and this just walks you through registering, because if you want to register, sign up, you can. That way you can save your results and you can get back into them later, because another class in the future might require you to take it and you can save them, or you can do it as a guest. It's totally up to you. But that's what that little video is for. The actual video you have to watch is the long one right here, 20 minutes. And again, Blackboard will tell me when you have watched it. That's how you get your other points. So that's the career services assignment. Now, you may want to wait to do that before you do your reflection, because you can use your results as part of your reflection. You can say, oh, I got my results back and it said that business is a 95% match. I think that really described me well and it made me feel good, because that's whatever. You can reflect on those results and if they fit you. All right, so that is week 3, everyone. You are completing the discussion forum for Chapter 2, the Chapter 2 assignment, looking at yourself 10 to 25 years from now, Chapter 2 quiz, the reflection on career services, and the career services assignment, which has 2 parts, the Career Coach 60-question assessment, and the video. All right, if you have any questions, please let me know, and I hope everyone has a great week.